Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Why Relationships Matter in the Innovation Economy. I am your host, Casey Lou Waiters, and this is a Goodie Nation podcast. For those of you who don't know, Goodie Nation is an organization that exists to help bridge the relationship gap between so many deserving founders and opportunities that can help their businesses thrive. And so we do this podcast because not only are we encouraged by hearing people's wins and all the amazing things that they're doing, we also are curious about the ways that relationship building have helped them to get to where they are today in their careers. And so on today's episode, we have a very special guest. We actually have one of our newest team members here at Goodie Nation, Christina Kingsberry. So welcome to the show, Christina.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited for today.
Very cool. Yes. So you are someone who is in the very early stages of your career. And even though that is the case, we are going to start off with our classic question. What is your origin story? How did you get to where you are today?
Yes. So my origin story is interesting in that I would always start it from the point that I am a hardcore problem solver and innovator. And I think that's kind of what led me down to the path of the sciences and wanting to dive within biology, public health, in that spectrum. And so because I was always doing math, I enjoyed the sciences. I ended up going to Spelman College for biology, minored in public health, and that's actually where I met Joey Womack doing Spelpreneurs. So shout out to Spelpreneurs. And then from Spelman, I decided to go to Columbia University as a part of their HBCU fellowship program, and I studied narrative medicine there, which is very similar to the line of public health and looking at how can we improve healthcare systems, and a very similar core principle to Goodie Nation and building relationship, building connection between the patient and the provider or the physician or clinician. So that's kind of like how I got into sort of my journey. And I realized that I didn't want to go to med school and was sort of down the track of like trying to figure what I wanted to do out. And through some of the work I did at Spelman within like the health tech space, I decided to apply to HBCU BC and get back within like the startup realm and venture into like venture capital and venture capital adjacent industries. So that's a little bit about me, and hopefully my journey continues in a very sort of different way. But yeah, like
No, that's very cool. I would love to learn more about narrative medicine. Um, so many times there's like this separation between like the tech and the science and the STEM, and it's like some STEAM action happen in some places, but like the narrative and the storytelling, that's something that sometimes is like separate from the tech piece. And so, yes, could you talk to us a little bit more about what narrative medicine is and how, as you mentioned, building those relationships with patients can be done through understanding of narrative and storytelling?
yeah, exactly. I think you kind of like hit the nail at its core. It's basically a program that's an interdisciplinary focus geared towards storytelling and understanding different medical narratives. And so we read a lot of different texts. We engage with different physicians, clinicians, and just how do we bring humanity back to the sciences? And I think that sometimes we get so focused within the numbers and how the numbers work, but there's always a person behind the numbers and the stories and everything. And so being able to take away from what is generally deemed as just research and numbers and quantitative things, but just bringing back the story component and the human to the clinical space. So that's a little bit about narrative medicine.
No, that's so cool. Storytelling as a relationship building tool is definitely something that Goodie Nation employs throughout the organization, whether that's through in person events, whether that's through this podcast or other social outreach. So it sounds like you really already kind of came into the organization with that mindset. And so I'm curious for you, like you mentioned, you met Joey while you were in school. How did becoming a part of Goodie Nation sort of end up being a part of your current journey?
Yeah, I was learning more about Goodie Nation. Um, I guess what drew me was the impact that Goodie Nation has in focusing on social capital versus just your standard, like how do you like financial capital in terms of that. And I think that's what kind of really reeled me in is kind of the mission of Goodie Nation and building relationships and expanding social capital for whoever, regardless of race, ethnicity, and like social status. So I think that's kind of what drew me in. And I think that very much so aligns with a lot of the work that I've done in the past in regards to health. And so I came into wanting to learn and grow with Goodie Nation through the lens of trying to increase the amount of Black women founders that are founding companies within health tech and digital health, and also other founders within a broad spectrum of industries. So that's kind of a little bit of how that aligns.
Nice. So, I mean, it sounds like you're already on like a tremendous start to your journey. I'm curious, are there any core relationships that you can think of, whether this was from mentors or professors, or it could be classmates or, colleagues? Are there any key relationships that stick out to you that really helped you to see, like, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do? Or, this actually had nothing to do with what I'm doing now, but this person always, is someone I could vent to or just kind of talk to about things. Any relationships like that stick out?
Oh, that's so hard. I feel like there's so many people that I've learned from, and I guess some of the relationships that I think that really hit home are people that I meet in a one instance circumstance. And I say that because I'm the type of person that feels I can learn from anyone and everyone. And so just meeting different people and always being willing to learn is kind of one key thing that I've really tried to hold to my um, stay true to myself with. Um, and I mean, there are quite a few, like a professor at Spelman, just being willing to kind of take nonlinear paths and kind of find your your way that is sort of non-traditional than everyone else. And I think that that's kind of been true to my story from starting out in STEM and like transitioning more into like a VC space and accelerators. So I would say, so, professors at Spelman, obviously my friends and family, just encouraging me to kind of, while I'm so young, take risks and really just engage with the community and just kind of what are kind of come from the point of what are my principles that I kind of overcross within anything that I do. And I think that is sort of like equity, being willing to learn and staying curious. Um, and I would say also, how do I bring an innovative and thoughtfulness to every conversation environment that I enter? So I would say I try to do those things along all different aspects, but also representing, my friends and family. And um, that's what I would say is kind of related to the relationship piece. So
Amazing.
I
Yes.
can't directly answer, but I feel like it's that's such a hard question. I
Oh, no,
can't.
you did great. No, you did great. So speaking of a question that sometimes it's hard, some people love it, some people hate it. what is your 5-year plan? Like when you look at, I know. Some people are like, oh my God, are you serious? I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. And it doesn't have to be 5 years. But when you sort of look at, based on the relationships that you are currently building, based on the things you're learning, what do you sort of see as you're going along is like, you know what, I think I would maybe like to be here at some point.
Yes, my 5-year plan. So right now I'm in the process of applying to law school. So that's one thing that will be like 3 years in time. But I'm also looking to get my MBA and sort of trying to find a good happy medium within all of my interests um, and and blending venture capital with law, and if I can mesh in health as well in that, I think that's definitely possible. But just being able to just like design all of the things that I'm interested in, and I think that that will kind of make me sort of different and stay very open-minded and creative and innovative as well. So law school, business school, and then hopefully find a job within the mix of all of that. So I would say that is sort of my 5-year plan. And then also travel, and um, I want to live in as many places as possible while I'm young and while it's a little bit easier than later down the line. So
That's amazing. And that actually leads me to my final question. You know, you're speaking of going to school where you need references and recommendation letters and all the things. And so I wanted to end with asking you, why do you think that relationships matter in the innovation economy proper, in as you're preparing to continue your studies, with all the other things that you have to do? Why are relationships important to you?
yeah, that's a really great question. I would say relationships are important from the point of it's always good to survey, learn from other people, hear what is working for one person, what is not working, and how can you kind of put your own twist to it in a very innovative and meaningful way that works for you. And I think that's kind of like what is beautiful about relationships is like being able to network and to learn and to grow. Um, and also, I feel like a lot of the relationships that I've had, I've leaned very dearly on, and um, in terms of like finding programs that people had thought were good for me, um, and have referred me to. That's kind of how I ended up at HBCUC, just like references, talking to people, as well as Columbia. Now thinking about it, just people understanding what your interests are at heart, and then being willing to kind of refer you and place you and open doors so that you can kind of accomplish what you plan to do in an efficient time, and making sure that you're staying on track. I think that's key, is like finding people that hold you accountable. And I think that's another really big portion of relationships is accountability, and one, making sure that you hold yourself accountable, but also having the right people within your circle to also hold you accountable as well. So
Nice. Very important for everyone, no matter what stage of your career or academic journey you are in. So, if folks wanted to find you, either just to keep up with what your journey is, if maybe somebody's listening and they're like, oh, law school, well, let me make sure you know such and such in case you want to go in this path. How could they find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
I would say LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. So definitely just reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. Would be a good way.
Nice. Excellent. Well, folks, yes, as you are processing and distilling everything that you just heard from our amazing Goodie Nation team member, of course, if you are like, oh, yes, I need to make this relationship or make this introduction, you know where to find Christina. And that's really all it takes sometimes, is just some intentional time to make an introduction, to send an email, to send a DM. That could be the thing that really helps to elevate someone's life or career to the next level. So thank you so much, Christina, for being an amazing guest today. And thank you for listening. And as our Goodie Nation founder, Joey Womack, always says, stay magnetic and outwork yesterday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.